All right, folks, another playoff preview. This is the first series that's going to be taking the ice in the Stanley Cup Playoffs. It's the Washington Capitals and the Boston Bruins. They're going every other day starting on Saturday, May 15th. So that's tomorrow if you're watching this as the video comes out, or today if you're watching this on Saturday, 7:15 p.m. Eastern Time, 4:15 Pacific. And I will have a live stream for the watch along during that game. I'm not doing a watch along during the Canucks game. It's at like 12:30, and who cares about that game? So we'll have that one, and then they go basically every other day, Monday, Wednesday, Friday, all at either 4:30 or 3:30. You can, of course, check the schedule just with a little Google search. It's that easy, folks. So let's go into the playoff preview. Let's break down this series and my thoughts on what could happen. So the Washington Capitals, to start, they've had a pretty solid year. They were a little bit shaky at the start of the season. They were looking like they might be on the bubble in sort of mid-February. You look at Don Lucian's model, which is my sort of go-to, and they were right around that 50% mark in the playoff chase before Philadelphia just plummeted off the face of the earth. That helped them move back up the standings. They won 11 of 14 games in March, 9 of 15 in April, and 4 of their last 6 in the month of May, and cemented their spot as the 2 seed comfortably in the playoffs in the East. They got edged out by the Pittsburgh Penguins in the second tiebreaker of regulation and overtime wins. And that's unfortunate for the Caps, because instead of playing against the Islanders, they're up against the powerhouse Boston Bruins, who look really dangerous. Since April 13th, the Bruins have won 12 of their last 17 games, most of them pretty handily, including a nice 6-game winning streak, a 4-game winning streak, and this is a team I could truly see making a run in the postseason. So let's break down this series here. So 2 seed Washington, they had 77 points, 36 wins, 15 losses, and 5 in OT. 3rd seed Boston Bruins, 33, 16, and 7, cementing themselves with 73 points. Now again, these divisions are the only teams they've played, so we have a good sample size, and folks, it was tight all series long. It started off with a little back-to-back, and in late January, Washington took the first game 4-3 in overtime. Boston answered with a 5-3 win on February 1st. They had another back-to-back at the beginning of March. Washington with a win in overtime again, and then Boston came back and cleaned up on March 5th with a 5-1 victory. They did battle again early April. April 8th, Boston took that one 4-2, but Washington cleaned them up with an 8-1 victory. And then about a week later, Boston won 6-3. And then to finish off the season just a few days ago, Washington won 2-1 to make this series 4-4. Now let's take a look at some of the players that are going to be competing in this series. Of course, that's always something to keep track of if you haven't paid much attention to the East Division, as I personally haven't paid a ton of before doing most of this research, but it is nice to take a look at some of the players that you can watch throughout this playoff run. For Washington, 2 goaltenders that have been getting the majority of the starts. Vitek Vanacek for the Capitals. You might not have heard of him before if you haven't been paying attention to the East Division this season, but he's been solid. 21 wins, 10 losses, 4 in extra time, 908 save percentage, probably just below that league average, and a pretty nice 2.69 goals against average. And then they have Samsonov behind him, 13-4-1, also with a 902, and also exactly the same goals against average, a 2.69 goals against average. Nice. On Boston's side, 3 goaltenders who have had a pretty decent share of the starts. Tuukka Rask is the guy in Boston, right? A 913 save percentage, 2.28 goals against average, 15-5-2 record, and he's the guy in Boston. And I have no doubts that he'll be the starter. Jaro Halak, also an option for them, 17-9-6 with a 905 and a 2.53. So not as good as Halak has been, but he's been fine. But he might be the 3rd stringer in this series because of Jeremy Swayman. I think his first name's Jeremy. This kid is 22 years old, a November 1998 birthday. He is way younger than me, which is bizarre to see an NHL goalie younger than me, really putting up good numbers. 7-3 in his 10 NHL appearances, 945 save percentage, and a 1.5 goals against average. Jeremy Swayman is looking good. So if Rask sort of fumbles the ball a little bit, you could see a guy like Swayman come in and try to steady the ship at the age of 22. top 5 skaters for each team. Let's take a look at the points. For Washington, we'll start with them as they are the higher seed. We got Nick Backstrom, just under a point a game, 15 goals, 38 assists, 53 points in the 55 games he played. John Carlson, also barely under a point a game as a defenseman. He is always so high up on the Washington scoring leaders. 10 goals, 34 assists, 44 points. TJ Oshie, 22 goals this year, including that hat trick the day after his father passed away, which was really cool to see. 22 goals, 21 assists for 43 points this season. Alex Ovechkin missed a handful of games with that whole COVID thing. That was kind of weird earlier in the season. Still got 24 goals in 45 games, folks. That's what, like a 45 goals per 82 pace. It's amazing the pace that he continues to score at, but 24 goals for him, just under a point a game as well. And Tom Wilson, rounding out their top scorers in the 47 games he played, 13 goals, 20 assists for 33 points. On the Boston side, Brad Marchand, it just keeps getting better. And it's absurd. I have him in my fantasy league, as in my keeper league, and he's always been so good for me. 29 goals, 40 assists for a nice 69 points in only 53 games played. Crazy high numbers for Brad Marchand, something like a 110 point pace, I would think. We got Patrice Bergeron, 23 goals, 25 assists for a nice 48 points in 54 games. Not blowing the world away, but really solid production from Bergeron. And then David Pastrnak, also 48 points, 48 games. Nothing to complain about there. David Krejci, 8 goals, 36 assists for 44 points in 51 games. And who? Craig Smith with 13 goals, 19 assists for 32 points in 54 games, rounding out the top 5 for the Boston Bruins. Now, here's where we get to my sort of opinion, instead of just me laying out the facts for you, in case you haven't seen much of these two teams play. I did my bracket challenge video earlier today. You can go back and watch that if you are interested. I think Boston's going to win this series, and just the way Boston is put together is so impressive. Like that perfection line can just do anything, and it's crazy. I do think Washington's going to put up a hell of a fight, though. I have the Boston Bruins taking out the Washington Capitals in 7 on my bracket. And honestly, I don't have a real fighting horse in this race. I'm not the biggest Boston fan as a Canucks fan personally, but I just want to see this series go 7 because it is going to be some good hockey. And I think for people who aren't Bruins fans, who aren't Capitals fans, who don't have a real rooting interest in this series, this is going to be a good one to watch, folks. I'm excited to see what happens. We should have a lot of offense in this series, especially, I mean, you look at guys like Alex Ovechkin going up against Brad Marchand, and some goalies who could be questionable, right? If Tuukka Rask, if something happens and they have to put in a guy like Jeremy Swayman, who knows what he's going to do? And Vitek Vanacek on the other side, also super young, really could be interesting to see what happens on the offensive side. Anyways, that's all I've got for this playoff preview. Make sure you're subscribed. We got more coming up. We'll have a preview for every single series. Tomorrow's going to be a busy day. I'll have 3 previews probably coming out because there's 3 games that start on Sunday. So make sure you're subscribed, hit the notification bell, and stay tuned for those. And of course, like I said earlier, I'll be live streaming during this game. So come hang out, come sit in the chat, and do your thing. Anyways, that's all I've got. I hope you guys have a good Saturday night, Sunday morning, whichever day you're watching this, and I'll see you next time.